You ever seen a movie flop so hard it actually becomes entertainment just to watch it fail? Because what happened with Disney's live-action Snow White wasn't just a box office disaster, it was a full-blown public meltdown. Imagine walking into your own movie premiere, and the loudest sound you hear is the echo of your own footsteps. That's not a joke. That's exactly what happened to 23-year-old Rachel Zegler. The woke actress of Disney's $370 million Snow White remake just watched her fairy tale turn into a full-blown horror story with more empty seats than a Monday morning math class.
There were actually raucous rounds of applause in the theater. Of course, I was the only person in the theater, so maybe that might explain it. But
we're talking about a film that was supposed to be Disney's next billion-dollar hit, rebranding a timeless fairy tale for a modern audience. Instead, it became the poster child for what happens when Hollywood lets ideology drive the script more than storytelling. And right in the center of it all, Rachel Zegler, once branded the next Disney darling, now the leading role in one of the most spectacular meltdowns in Hollywood history. The actress who managed to alienate half the fan base before the movie even hit theaters. From calling the original movie weird to mocking Prince Charming and beefing with her co-stars. Rachel didn't just spark controversy, she practically threw gasoline on it and lit a match. But here's the kicker, she documented the downfall herself. Instagram stories, awkward laughs, rented out theaters that didn't need to be rented. It's the kind of cringe you can't look away from. Entire theaters were empty. Fans were posting seat maps that looked like someone unplugged the ticket system. And that's just the beginning. Because what came next? Box office disasters, IMDb ratings so low they belong underground, and a PR nightmare Disney couldn't even wish away with all the fairy godmothers in the kingdom. This wasn't just a flop, this was a $370 million identity crisis. And Rachel, she didn't just lose the crowd, she may have lost her career. Let's break down how Disney's Snow White went from fairy tale to full-scale catastrophe. So let's start with March 25th, 2025, the night Rachel Zegler showed up to watch her own movie hit the big screen. Except there was one tiny problem. No one else did. Seriously, the theater looked more like a ghost town than a Disney premiere, the kind of place where tumbleweeds would have rolled past the popcorn machine if they had the budget for it. Rachel dragged along a few ride or die friends. Illa Mason, Jorge Mason, Remy, and Maria Isabel de Mason, all of whom probably thought they were attending a private screening. But it turns out the privacy came free, with every ticket. And thanks to one of her friends posting everything to Instagram, the internet got a front row seat to the most awkward movie premiere in recent memory. We're talking cringy cheers when Rachel's name hit the screen, forced laughs, sad popcorn buckets, the kind of vibe you get when you're trying to pretend the Titanic isn't sinking while holding hands on the deck. And just to rub salt in the wound, they filmed themselves doing that 2 tickets please trend. When the Regal employee asked for which movie, they panned to their Snow White souvenir cups like that was supposed to make it better.
Please?
For which movie?
It didn't. And then came the numbers. Thursday previews alone brought in just $3.5 million. That's not a red flag. That's a 20-foot banner saying this ship is going down. Opening weekend, $43 million for a movie with a $250+ million production budget before marketing. That's not just bad, that's someone's getting fired in the Magic Kingdom bad. Compare that to the Little Mermaid remake, which pulled $95 million its first weekend, or even Dumbo, which managed almost the same as Snow White on a fraction of the budget. Not only did Snow White bomb, it embarrassed itself on arrival. And if you're thinking, maybe it'll pick up in week 2, nope, 66% drop, gone, vanished, poof. The audience disappeared like a magic mirror that cracked under pressure. Meanwhile, social media lit up with posts of deserted theaters and painfully empty seat maps. The only thing fans were lining up for was to roast it online. But this is not all. Then, because the internet never forgets, an old clip of Rachel resurfaced. In it, she proudly declares that despite her flaws and cracks, people would wait in line to see her work.
To everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Spoiler alert, they didn't. Instead, the only thing waiting in line was the internet, ready to roast her like a Thanksgiving turkey. Critics, fans, even casual moviegoers couldn't stop reposting it with captions like, "This didn't age well," and "Welcome back to reality, princess. Snow White was a complete flop."
I mean, the critics were looking for any way, any excuse to give it a high score. They know that conservatives don't like Rachel Zegler. Like, even they couldn't find a way to pretend that this piece of trash is anything but a piece of trash.
But the drama didn't stop at the theater. Behind the scenes, oh, it was a circus. Rachel Zegler claimed playing Snow White was a lifelong dream, the role she always wanted. A fairy tale come true, but based on what she's said in interviews, you'd think she hated the story.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. I watched it for the first time in probably 16, 17 years when I was doing this film.
According to Variety, Disney execs were already sweating bullets over Rachel's interviews, where she dragged the 1937 classic called Prince Charming a Stalker, and basically told entire political groups not to watch the film.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
Okay.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. People will assume it's a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. And we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
If that's called love for your own movie you're playing the main character in, well, at least she has some self-awareness.
I'm a narcissist. I say, if I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid for every hour that it is streamed online.
She took the stage at Disney's D23 event and closed her speech with a bold political statement that had execs scrambling. Panic mode activated. Suddenly, their $270 million fairy tale had turned into a full-blown PR war zone. Producer Mark Platt had to personally fly out just to ask Rachel to tone it down. Not once, twice. And as if that wasn't enough, Jonah Platt, Mark's own son, took to Instagram to publicly slam Rachel's behavior. This is called adult responsibility and accountability, and her actions clearly hurt the film's box office. Tens of thousands of people worked on that film, and she hijacked the conversation for her own immature desires at the risk of all the colleagues and crew and blue-collar workers who depend on that movie to be successful. Narcissism is not something to be coddled or encouraged. That post, quickly deleted, but not before screenshots spread like wildfire. But that wasn't the only thing burning, so was her relationship with co-star Gal Gadot, or as Rachel apparently sees her, the Invisible Queen. First, Rachel referred to Gal as a professional pageant queen in a comment that reeked of passive-aggressive shade. Then came the 2025 Oscars, where the two awkwardly presented together like two co-workers forced into a group project. But the final nail, Rachel's heartfelt Instagram post thanking everyone on the Snow White crew except Gal. No mention, no tag, no photo. Just a massive glaring omission that the internet immediately clocked. Coincidence? Maybe. But given all the behind-the-scenes tension, it looked more like a royal snub. And worse, Zegler and Gadot ended up on very opposite sides of a highly sensitive political issue. Rachel posted a series of Free Palestine statements that triggered a wave of threats against Gal, who is Israeli and served in the army. So yeah, you can guess what happened next.
Zegler also faced blowback after posting Free Palestine. Gadot is from Israel and served in the Israeli army.
Due to Rachel's political comments, Gal became the unintended target of intense online hate, and even threats to her safety. The situation got so serious, Disney had to cough up cash to pay for extra security to protect Gal, a mother of 4, just so she could safely show up for work. This all because of a family film. Let that sink in. Rachel might have thought she was making a statement, but it's clear she didn't fully grasp the real-world fallout of her words.
Yes, it's all Rachel Zegler and her behavior. And if it was just one comment, it probably would have been forgotten by now. But it was comment after comment, and it was pissing off everybody, pissing off old Disney fans, pissing off new Disney fans, pissing off Trump supporters, pissing off all of America. And it became such a disaster that they had to shut her up, which was the smartest move they made. But the onus is all on her and Disney's reaction to it. And quite frankly, if she has said nothing, her movie, probably still forgettable, would have done a lot better.
And as if things weren't already spiraling, the $270 million disaster of a film was already bleeding money thanks to expensive reshoots and Rachel's non-stop stream of controversy. But then came the final straw. Right after the US presidential election, Rachel fired off an Instagram post that read, and I quote, "May Trump supporters never know peace. F Donald Trump, one sentence." That's all it took to send Disney execs into meltdown mode. At that point, Disney had had enough. The film was already in trouble, and now she was alienating half the audience for an already doomed film. Disney scrambled. Behind closed doors, producer Mark Platt flew out not once, but twice to talk to Rachel face to face. This wasn't a friendly check-in. It was damage control with Mickey Mouse breathing down his neck. After plenty of back and forth, Rachel finally agreed to let a Disney-paid social media handler vet her posts before the film's March 21st release. Every caption, every comment, every story. But by then, the internet had already made up its mind. Just when you thought the drama between Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot had finally calmed down, the internet caught something that fired it right back up. On March 20th, literally hours before Snow White stumbled into theaters, Rachel posted a glowing Instagram tribute. She called the movie life-changing, raved about the greatest crew in the world, and gushed over 3 magical summers in London with the cast. But one person was suspiciously missing from the post: Gal Gadot. No tag, no photo, no mention, nothing. Sure, some tried to brush it off as an innocent oversight. But after the Oscars awkwardness, the shady pageant queen comment, and months of rumored tension, yeah, this felt very intentional and the internet wasn't buying it. To most people, it looked less like a tribute and more like a message. And the drama didn't stop there. From the moment Rachel was announced as Disney's new Snow White, the internet lit up. Critics questioned the casting of a Latina actress in the role of a pale-skinned fairy tale princess, a controversy similar to the backlash Halle Bailey faced when she was cast as Ariel. But Rachel didn't exactly take the high road. In a now deleted post, she clapped back, "Yes, I am Snow White. No, I am not bleaching my skin for the role." She went even further, calling her critics losers obsessed with preserving the bloodline purity of a cartoon princess. Spoiler, that didn't calm things down. It poured gasoline on an already blazing fire. Even in a 2022 Variety interview with Andrew Garfield, Rachel acknowledged that her role as Snow White had made her a trending topic, not because of praise, but because of angry people online. And instead of de-escalating, she kept poking the bear. And while controversy can sometimes boost a film's visibility, this wasn't that kind of magic. From day one, Rachel's Snow White has been fighting an uphill battle, and her own interviews didn't help. In one extra interview, she called the original 1937 storyline weird, mocking the central romance by saying,
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
Yeah, she said Prince Charming was a stalker. Sure, Disney had hinted at a more modern take, but Rachel's tone made it sound like she wasn't just reimagining the story, she was trashing it, and fans weren't having it. One viral post put it bluntly: "If you hate the story so much, why take the role?" And just when the drama seemed maxed out, surprise, it got worse. Because the Snow White controversy wasn't just about casting, it also ignited a completely separate firestorm over the 7 dwarfs. Back in 2022, Game of Thrones star Peter Dinklage blasted Disney during an episode of the WTF podcast. His take: Disney was patting itself on the back for casting a Latina actress while still pushing what he called a backward story about 7 dwarfs living in a cave.
You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that fucking backward story of 7 dwarfs living in a cave. What the f are you doing, man?
And just like that, the internet exploded again. Even Wee Man from Jackass joined in, slamming Disney for replacing dwarfs with CGI or generic magical creatures.
It's a bad thing. I'm not agreeing with it. One, because what they're doing is pretty much you're replacing jobs that people could have as little people. Snow White and the 7 dwarfs, it's for dwarfs.
So yeah, Between the casting controversy, the script bashing, and the dwarf debate, this remake managed to offend pretty much everyone before a single ticket was sold. Some praised Dinklage and Weeman for calling out Disney's selective progressivism. Others accused them of erasing opportunities for dwarf actors altogether. But one thing was clear, the debate was loud, heated, and impossible to ignore. And Disney took notice. The very next day, they released a statement saying they were taking a different approach to the 7 dwarfs and had been consulting with members of the dwarfism community. Translation, they scrapped the original dwarfs altogether. And what did they replace them with? With CGI dwarves, computer-generated imagery, and the reaction of the public? Brutal backlash. Fans took one look at the new characters and recoiled. The photorealistic animation looked stiff, unnatural, and totally lacked the charm of the originals. Instead of honoring what made the dwarfs iconic, Disney went with a weird middle ground that pleased no one.
That is totally uplifting and the right way to be woke, Link, when you actually canceled the roles for the marginalized population because just putting them on screen is somehow racist.
Just like that, another chapter in Snow White's long, messy saga became a lightning rod for outrage. And at this point, with backlash piling up and the movie already bleeding money, Disney had a choice: roll out the red carpet or quietly sweep this disaster under it. They chose the latter. According to Variety, Disney scrapped their usual fanfare for a low-key daytime screening at the El Capitan Theater on March 15th. No glitz, no buzz. Even the European premiere, normally held at London's iconic Leicester Square, was pushed into a random castle in northern Spain. No press circus, no spotlight, just a quiet shuffle to the exit. So what does that tell you? Lack of confidence, fear of controversy, or maybe a quiet admission that this film wasn't going to deliver anything close to what was promised? Because with a muted premiere, relentless online backlash, and a box office performance that's crashing harder than a flying carpet with no gas left, Snow White isn't just a fairy tale anymore. It's a cautionary tale. And now, as the dust finally settles, the real question is, how did Disney get it this wrong? Was it the script, the casting, the constant controversies? Or was it Rachel Zegler, the rising star who somehow managed to alienate fans, drag a beloved classic, feud with her co-star, and light the PR campaign on fire? All before premiere night, because fairy tales, they don't always end with happily ever after, especially in Hollywood. Let me know what you think in the comments. Was Snow White doomed from the start, or did the drama just bury it deeper?